Senator, good morning.
Thanks. Thanks, Tony. It's great to be on.
Thank you for being here. So politics is always personal in part, but this plan feels a little more personal than most for you because your father has struggled with Alzheimer's. How did that impact how you put it together?
One of the things you realize when you have someone in your family, for me, my dad is 91. Thankfully, it didn't hit him till later. But you see them growing more and more distant, not in the heart, but in the mind. And you realize sometimes they may not even quite know who you are, and that's a hard moment when that happens. Well, I'm not alone. There are 14 million people right now who has someone with Alzheimer's in their family. 14 million people have Alzheimer's. And we are not really getting ready for this. We're going to see even more and more of it. And to me, it is, of course, about getting a cure and treatment. That's a lot in this plan, about getting us there by 2025 and investing. But it's also about the caregivers. They may be a husband or a wife, or they may be a daughter or son, but they're heroes. And they're the ones that are there every single day, especially when the people are at home. And
it's helping really tough job.
Helping them get tax credits to help them do their work.
Yeah, Alzheimer's is the most expensive disease in America, costing more than cancer and heart disease, $290 billion at hand. That's just part of your plan. Talk about what else is in there and how are you going to pay for it?
Right. Well, the pay for is interesting because this plan is about seniors, right? It's about keeping Medicare and Social Security strong and also being able to push on the drug companies because prescription drugs, common drugs like insulin, have gone up multiple times in just the last few years. But paying for it is interesting. You've heard about how the wealthiest people are able to set up trust funds for their kids. I'm not talking about charitable trusts. I'm talking about things that people set up for their kids. That's all fine and good. But then they don't pay taxes on the money that they make on the trust when they go to their kids. And conservative estimates are that it would bring in at least $200 billion if you started putting that at a normal tax rate, whether it's the capital gains rate, and you could even change that. That brings in a lot of money that I think was better spent on the rest of the people in this country that need help with retirement or need help to take care of a family member with Alzheimer's.
Your plan also calls for improving mental health for seniors. How are you actually going to address that?
Well, you have seniors who feel very isolated, and we've actually seen a 30% increase in suicides in this country. In our entire population. So when you hear these stories at home, they're not just stories. That is making sure there's people in communities, they have people to go to, that communities are aware, especially with people with Alzheimer's. There's a lot of work being done right now by the Alzheimer's Association, and I've seen communities in my own state where they're training store clerks and people who work at coffee shops. When someone comes in and they have Alzheimer's, they seem to have memory problems, accept it. This is how you work with them because there's going to be a lot of people out in the community. So there are things we can do that don't even cost money as a country to be able to deal with this.
There's a story that's been dominating the headlines out of Congress this week, and it's a rift between Nancy Pelosi and some younger congresswomen in her party, in your party. Nancy Pelosi scolded them, is the term I would use, for some tweets. This intramural fighting, do you think Pelosi was right to call out the tweets? Wow. Do you think this is going to go away?
I got enough politics in the presidential race with 24 candidates, but what I do think is, first of all, Nancy Pelosi is a very strong leader, and she's got a big party to unite and a big group of people over there in the House. But the second thing to remember is we always are going to have differences in the Democratic Party. We are a big tent party with different ideas. And it's a lot different than the Republicans right now, who seem to have Donald Trump say, how high can you jump to keep him happy? Yeah, we have differences, but what unites us is much stronger than what divides us.
I want to you could be in lockstep in the same way the Republicans are? You need to be, I would say, right?
Well, I think when we get down to the election, just like we did in 2018, we're going to have someone leading the ticket. I'd like it to be me. I'm someone that believes that we need to have a presidential candidate that doesn't just unite our party, but in it to win in November. I've won in red districts, in districts that Donald Trump won by over 20 points. And I think you need to build that coalition, and I'm not going to make all these promises that a bunch of other people have made, because I think you make one important promise, that you're going to govern with integrity. I think that the American people have seen broken promises from Donald Trump now for years, and they're ready for someone who can lead. And it is about leading, and that is my message to the American people as we go forward in this campaign.
I want to go back to health care for a second, because a federal appeals court appeared sympathetic to arguments that the Affordable Care Act is unconstitutional. Do you think we need a constitutional amendment guaranteeing the right to health care?
If we had the political environment where we could pass something like that, that would be good, because I see health care as a right and not a privilege. But right now, my focus is on, one, protecting the Affordable Care Act so that people can't get thrown off their insurance, which would be devastating for so many people in this country if they have any pre-existing condition. Two, building on it by doing more about the pharmaceutical prices, taking them on, allowing seniors to negotiate Medicare prices, bringing in less expensive drugs from other countries. I lead those bills. And then the second thing, the last thing I would say, is that we need to bring down the cost of premiums. And if the Trump administration is going to keep trying to take those things away from people, we're going to fight back.